Click here to subscribe our channel and do not forget to press the bell icon to get regular updates of our videos. Hello friends, good evening to all of you. I am back with another video on Sociology Optional subject for UPSC CSE means examination. In this video we are going to cover informal sector and child labor under industrialization and urbanization in India. So friend, please do these 3 hours. Share as much as possible so that more and more people will get benefited. Comment and like the video and ask any doubt if you have. And now you can also follow us on MB page, that is facebook.com/Unorthodox Academy. So friend, as you know that we are covering slot 4, that is work, economic life, agriculture and history. And paper 1 we are already finished work and economic life. In paper 2 we finished rural and agrarian transformation in India. In this video we are going to cover informal sector and child labor under industrialization and urbanization in India, and the upper 3 topics are already covered. So friend, basically informal sector or informal economy is that part of an economy that is not taxed and or basically not monitored by any form of government. So generally in the context of third world societies, it is believed that there exists a kind of duality or dualism or dual economy in the urban areas. And this dualism is based on the contrast between activities which are recognized officially or which are sanctioned by official or government legislation on one hand, and those which are not on the other. So those activities which are generally sanctioned by official legislation and registered with government are referred to as formal sector. And the labor working here are called organized labor. So the employee outside organized labor market are generally referred to as an informal sector, and the informal sector is sometimes said to be represent the traditional economy which exists parallel with modern economy. And this is the characteristic feature of the third world societies. So in India, around 70% of the potential working population earn their living in the informal sector. Agriculture workers constitute by far the largest segment of workers in the unorganized sector. The informal sector continues to remain bigger than organized sector, and despite its large, substantial place in economy, the unorganized sector is relatively neglected sectors. So now we see the features of the informal sector. The first is that the low level of organizations, less than 10 employees and sometimes immediate family members. Then heterogeneity in the activities. Then third, easy entry and exit than the formal sector. Then usually low capital investment, no difference between capital and labor. Then labor intensive job, low level of skills, and even workers learn the skills on the job. So employees and employer relationship is informal and unwritten with the little or no rights. Then there is isolation and invisibility, and they are unaware of their rights and they can't organize themselves, and there is therefore little negotiating power. So now we see the categories of informal sector. The first is based on the occupations. So on the basis of occupation, small and marginal farmers, landless agriculture laborers, sharecroppers, fishermen, those engaged in animal husbandry, in beedi rolling, labeling and packaging, building and construction, collection of raw hides and skins, handlooms, weaving in the rural areas, brick kilns and stone quarries, sawmills, oil mills and etc. Then on the based upon nature of employments, so attached agriculture laborers, bonded laborers, migrant workers, contract and casual laborers and etc. Then we have specifically distressed categories, and these are the scavengers, carriers of head loads, drivers of animal driven vehicles, loaders, unloaders and etc. Then we have the service categories. So this include midwives, domestic workers, barbers, vegetable or fruit vendor, newspaper vendor, etc. So now we see the problem of informal sector. The first problem is rural agriculture laborers has poor security of tenure, low income, inadequate diversification of economic activities in rural areas. They are dispersed, unorganized and generally have poor bargaining power, and they have seasonal work, so they migrate to urban centers for construction works in off seasons. And the circumstances force them to borrow either for consumption purposes or to meet social obligations like marriage and etc. from private resource sources, and then they end up in bonded labor in many cases. Then there is issue and problems of home-based workers are very complex because of this absence of any direct master-servant or employer-employee relationship, and this relationship being ambiguous and indefinite, and home workers is subject to exploitation in various forms. In India, there is no authentic data on home-based workers. Official data sources such as Census of India do not recognize these workers as an independent category, but have included them in the broad category of those working in household industries, and home-based workers are not visible in national statistics. So, however, it has been estimated that over 3 crore workers in the country are home-based workers. For example, bidi rolling, handloom, weaving, rural artisans and craft persons, agarbatti makers, zari workers, papad makers, cobblers, lady tailors, carpenters and etc. Then there is a construction industry, and it is prone to the risk of accident, and majority of them are unreported. Then there is sexual exploitation of women migrant workers, and very less amount of money paid in the form of wage. Most of the migrant workers in the informal sector live in the slums with poor sanitation and health hazards. So now we see the social security measures taken by government for workers in unorganized sector. The first one is the Swavlamban scheme, which is a national pension scheme for unorganized sector. Then there is a central funded social assistance program such as National Social Assistance Scheme, SGSY, Employment Assurance Scheme, Family Benefits and Maternity Benefits. And SGSY is Swarna Jayanti Gramin Swarozgar Yojana. Then there is Social Assurance Scheme such as Rashtriya Swasthya Bima Yojana, then social assistance through welfare funds of central and state government, and there is some public initiatives too. Then several public institutions and agencies are also imparting various kinds of social security benefit to the selected group of workers, and among these self-employed women's association, that is SEVA, has made significant achievements in promoting social security through the formation of cooperatives. So friend, before starting child labor, I would like to say that the paper 2 is majorly of current affairs. So you can always update these slides according to the current affairs news that you will get. So now we see the child labor. So first we need to understand what is child labor. So according to ILO, that is International Labour Organizations, defines child labor as work that deprives children of their childhood, their potentials and their dignity, and it is harmful to their physical and mental developments. So then it refers to the works that is mentally, physically or socially or morally dangerous and harmful to children, or work whose schedule interferes with their ability to attend their regular school, or work that affects in manners their ability to focus during school or experience healthy childhood. So however, children or adolescents who participate in work that does not affect their health and personal development or does not interfere with their schooling is not called as child labor. And such work include activities such as helping their parent at home, assisting family or earning pocket money outside school hours and on holidays. So child labor has been one of the biggest concerns in India, and according to 2011 census, there were more than 10.2 million economically active children in the age group of 5 to 14 and 5.6 million boys and 4.5 million girls. And 8 million children were working in the rural areas and 2 million in urban areas. Child labor has decreased in rural areas, however it has increased drastically in the urban areas, which is really alarming. Analysis of 2016 by CRY, that is Child Rights and You, of census data shows that the overall decrease in child labor is only 2.2% per year from 2001 to 2011. So now we see the causes of child labor. So the first cause is the poverty, which is the greatest cause of child labor. For improved household, income from a child's work is usually crucial for his or her own survival or for that of the household. So children are also bonded to labor due to a family indebtedness. Then the next cause is because of the literacy of the child's parents further worsens the situations, and lack of awareness of the harmful effects of child labor is major cause behind the prevalence of child labor. And the lack of access to the basic and meaningful quality educations and skill training, especially in rural areas. There is lack of adequate schooling facilities, schools are often far and quality of education is poor. Then the increased demand of child labor, especially in urban areas, is an important reason, and children are employed because they are cheap and flexible according to the demands of employer and not aware of their rights. So now we see the nature of child labor in India. So basically the isolation of work has changed. There has been an increasing involvement of children in home-based works and in the informal sector, and the change in type of child labor mainly attributes to enforcement of legislation and awareness among buyers about child exploitations. So in the areas, a large number of children are engaged in manual domestic work, rag picking, restaurants, motor repair shop, and etc. And in rural sector, children are engaged in the agriculture sector, including cotton growing, at glass, matchbox, and brass and lock making factories, in embroidery, rag picking, beadi rolling, in the carpet making industry, in mining and stone quarrying, brick kilns, and tea gardens, amongst others. So the division of labor is gender specific, with girls being engaged in more domestic and home based work and boys working as wage laborers. And the next one is the bonded child labor. So bonded labor means the employment of a person against a loan or debt or social obligations by the family of child or family as a whole. It is no less than slavery. Bonded child laborers are often found in agriculture sector, assisting their families in brick kilns and stone quarries. So now we see the national legislations addressing the issue of child labor in India. So the first one is Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act 1986, which is amended in 2016, and the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986 is basically based on the recommendation of Guru Padma Swami Committee of 1979, and the act was passed in 1986. Then there is National Policy on Child Labor of 1987, and it contains the action plan for tackling the problem of child labor. It focuses more on rehabilitation of children working in hazardous occupations and processes rather than on prevention. So the policy consists of three main attributes. The first is being the legal action plan, according to which the emphasis will be laid on strict and effective enforcement of legal provisions relating to child under various labor laws. Then focusing of general development programs, and according to this, utilization of various ongoing development programs of other ministries or departments for the benefit of child labor wherever possible. Then there is project based plan of actions. It include the launching of projects for the welfare of working childs in areas of high concentration of child labor. Beside this, there is Juvenile Justice Cares and Protection of Children Act 2000, which is amended in 2006 and 2015. Then there is Right to Free and Compulsory Education Act of 2009, and the act made it mandatory for the state to ensure that all children aged 6 to 14 years are in school and receive free educations. And Article 21A of the Constitution of India recognizes education as a fundamental right, and by ensuring free education to children, these would help to combat the menace of child labor in India. So thank you guys for listening and watching this video. Thank you.